I really do believe that true love can't possibly be just a feeling, because nothing in this world is as fickle as our feelings and our emotions, right? One moment you feel really good about yourself, and the next moment you can't stand to look at yourself in the mirror. One moment you feel really good about a person, and the next moment you have feelings of anger, feelings of disdain, feelings of even maybe hatred towards a particular person, right? And so if we're waiting for the presence of a good feeling in order to give love to a person, then we would spend most of our lives not only withholding love from another person, but withholding love from ourselves as well. And I think when you really think about that, you begin to realize that true love, divine love, unconditional love, can't possibly be just a feeling. It truly has to be a choice. And to say that unconditional love, true love is a choice, is to say that despite whatever feeling, despite whatever emotion that we're experiencing, we can still give love, because love is truly a choice. And obviously this doesn't mean that you sort of fake the funk, you fake as if you feel good towards a person. It doesn't mean that you fake, right? I think every emotion, everything that we feel, we have a right to feel, right? I don't believe that there's such a thing as a bad feeling or a bad emotion, right? Because we're human. Sometimes we can't prevent ourselves from feeling a particular thing. But just because a negative feeling is there, doesn't mean that we have to act on it. Just because a particular negative feeling is present in the moment, which feelings go and come, right? Doesn't mean that we have to withhold love simply because a negative feeling is present, right? We can always choose to give love despite whatever feeling or whatever emotion we're experiencing in the moment, right? And I think the thing that makes love long lasting, I think the thing that makes love ever present or unconditional is the fact that it is a choice, right? That to me is what truly makes love long lasting and unconditional. Just because we have a particular disdain towards a person, just because we're feeling emotions of anger, just because we're even feeling emotions of hatred towards a particular person, doesn't mean that we have to withhold love. And believe it or not, right? And this is very interesting. Believe it or not, what put this into perspective for me was actually Naruto, right? For those of you who are familiar with Naruto, and for those of you who are not, you're definitely missing out. But there was an arc in the show in which Naruto was face to face with pain, right? And he was face to face with a guy who not only killed both their master because they had the same master, but a guy that completely destroyed his village as well, right? And in that moment, all he was experiencing was anger. All he was experiencing was resentment. All he was experiencing was hatred towards the person that stood in front of him, right? And he had the power to take revenge. He had the power to avenge his master and his village, right? And in that moment, the only thing that consumed him was hatred, right? He was shaking from the amount of hatred that consumed him in that moment, right? But despite all of that, despite all he was feeling, he was able to make the decision to listen to the story of this person that was in front of him. Listen to his story, right? And in that moment, he recognized that the person that was in front of him, was simply acting from pain. The person that was in front of him was simply suffering suffering on the inside, right? And everything that he was doing was simply because of the pain that he experienced in the past. And in that moment, a great sense of compassion, a great sense of empathy, a great sense of love was born within Naruto, right? And obviously this is probably an extreme example, right? I personally don't believe that if someone had I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that for YouTube purposes, right? I personally don't think I could do what he did. Right? I don't think I would have the ability to stand in front of a person who had killed the people that I loved and even have the strength to hear him out, even have the strength to choose love in that moment. I personally don't think I could have done that, right? But I told this story to sort of show you guys or put into perspective the idea that irrespective of whatever emotion or feeling is present, even feelings of anger, we can always choose love, because love is a choice. Love is something that we can choose. We don't always have to act towards our feelings. We don't always have to act in accordance to our negative feelings and our negative emotions, right? And I remember making an outdoor video, and in the outdoor video I was saying that love blossoms through presence and understanding, right? It's probably one of my favorite videos that I've made. If you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend checking it out, right? And I was saying that love blossoms through presence and understanding. And I was saying that if we are able to be present with a person that is in front of us, if we're able to choose to at least try to understand that person, if we bring presence and understanding to a particular situation, that is when love truly blossoms, right? Because most of the times the ill feelings that we feel towards a person, most of the time the negative emotions that we feel towards a person is because of a mental image that we've created in our minds. We've created this image in our minds of a person based on past experiences, past actions, past circumstances, right? And we tend to hold on to that image of the person in our minds, right? And we continue to see that person through that particular lens. So all we're seeing is truthfully our mental projection. That's all we're truthfully seeing, right? But whenever we allow ourselves to be present, whenever we allow ourselves to bring some understanding or choose to try at least to understand that person, instead of seeing just a mental projection of that we've created in our minds, we begin to see a human. And very often the person that we sort of have certain negative feelings towards, the person that we have certain feelings of hatred or disdain towards, they're just people that are hurting on the inside. They're just people who have truthfully turned their backs on love because of their past experiences. And instead of seeing that mental projection, we see a human that is suffering on the inside. We see a human that is in need of compassion. We see a human that is in need of empathy. We see a human being that is in need of love. Whenever we bring presence and understanding to the situation, right? The truth of the matter is this: if we were to all act on whatever emotions that we're experiencing, this world will be a lot worse than it is right now. And truthfully, the world is how it is because we don't recognize that in every moment or in every circumstance, despite whatever emotion that we're feeling, we have a choice. We have a choice to choose love. We have a choice to choose compassion. We have a choice to choose empathy. Despite whatever it is that we're feeling, we always have a choice. Right? Love is always present because choice is always present. Love is always present because every moment of every situation that we find ourselves in, we can choose. So love is always present. right? To me, there's a deeper awareness, there's a deeper presence that is within us, irrespective of whatever emotion, whatever fickle feeling is on the surface. There's a deeper awareness within us that knows right from wrong, that knows compassion, that knows empathy, that knows love. That deeper awareness within us is always there, and we can always get in touch with it, right? We don't always have to act on what we're feeling in the moment. We don't always have to act from those negative emotions. We can bring presence and understanding to a situation, right? Even to some of the people that have done us wrong, we can bring presence and understanding to the situation. Most of the times, the people that have done wrong to us, right? The people who we have certain grievances towards, they're really just people that are hurt. And if we allow ourselves to simply act out of hurt again, we're just perpetuating that cycle of negativity. We're just perpetuating that cycle of pain. We're adding to it, and we're just creating more conflict, right? You can't fight fire with fire. You can't in a sense end that cycle of negativity, that cycle of hatred, that cycle of disdain with more hatred and disdain, right? It has to be ended with love. Love is the only solution. Love is all that we need. This world needs more love. And don't get me wrong, it's very hard, right? It's very hard to choose love whenever you are standing or you're in a situation with someone that has done you wrong in the past, right? It's very hard to choose love. It's very hard to turn the other cheek. It is very hard. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean that we can't do it. We can do it, right? We always can. Love is always a choice. It always is. We're always going to, in a sense, experience negative emotions. Those things are always going to be there, right? But we don't always have to act on them. To me, the greatest form of love is choosing not to act on your negative emotions, right? That to me is really one of the greatest forms of love, right? To me, it's quite easy to sort of give love to a person. It's quite easy to give compassion to a person. It's quite easy to give empathy to a person when you feel good about that person, right? It always is. But what isn't easy is choosing love when deep inside you have that feeling of disdain. What's not, easy is choosing compassion even when, that negative feeling within you is telling you to do all the wrong things to that person. That to me is the hardest thing to do. Choosing love when every bone in your body is experiencing or feeling the opposite in the moment. But that truthfully is the only thing that is going to end certain cycles of negativity, cycles of hatred, is beginning with a choice to choose love, right? That's the only way the world is going to heal. That truthfully is the only way. Adding more love, choosing love, even when it's difficult, that's the only way this world is going to heal. Because as long as we keep acting from the way we feel, as long as we keep choosing to perpetuate the cycle of negativity, this world will never truly heal. This world will never truly transform. It begins with that choice, that one simple choice, to choose love. Right? So I say all this to say, this video is probably gonna drop at the perfect time, probably right before Christmas, which to me is a perfect time because, I'm not Christian by any means. I don't follow a religious path. But one of the people that I truly look up to is Jesus, right? And he talks about love so much, a lot, as a choice, right? He always talks about love as a choice. Turn the other cheek, love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? All those things begin with awareness and choice. All those things. Because we're not in charge of our feelings, right? We can't control the way we feel, but we can control the way we act. We can control the way we show up. We can control our ability to be present. We can control our ability to at least try to understand another person's perspective. We can control those things. And those things are the very things which end certain cycles. Those things are the very things which lead to some degree of transformation, right? So love truly does begin with a choice. You have to choose love. And in choosing love, that's when all those feelings begin to blossom. In choosing love, that's when the internal transformation truly does begin, right? So see love as a choice. Choose love, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when it's painful, even when those negative emotions are there. Choose love, because it truly does begin with a choice. Peace and blessings.